Perfect. Hello, everyone. Excuse me. Welcome back to Healthy for the Holidays. A shorter week this week. As I mentioned, I took my daughter for a quick holiday getaway, she and I, and so I was not available the last couple of days to do our quick video. So here we are. This will be day 21 of Healthy for the Holidays series. And it's on a Wednesday because I was out the last 2 days. So today's topic is one of my favorite tools the rest of this week topic is one of my favorite tools to use when we're talking about what to eat over the holidays. Well, really what to eat anytime. Because I think one of the mistakes that we make is we start to make rules about what we can and can't have. And we say, well, I can have this, but I can't have that. Or I can have one cookie, but I can't have two. Or I can have this type of food, but I can't have that type of food. Or I can have fat, but I can't have carbs, right? So we start to make rules about what we can and can't have. And from a psychological perspective, there are a number of reasons why this happens, but to make it easy, from a psychological perspective, as soon as we start to make a rule about what we can and can't have, automatically our focus on that food gets heightened. So think of it like a child. And when you say, you can't play with that, you can't have that, you can't do that, and your child immediately starts to get focused on the thing that they're not allowed to have or not allowed to do. When we say you can't, and we emphasize it, our energy draws that to us. And so when I say I can't have sugar, well, suddenly sugar becomes very attractive. The energy of sugar gets heightened, and now it becomes in our field. And so I find that it's the wrong question, or I should say it's the wrong statement. It's the wrong approach to a desire to eat differently. Okay, so if you have a desire to eat differently and make different choices around food, one of the worst things that you can do is say that you can't have it and put a rule on it that says, I can't have this, I'm not allowed to have this. Okay. There's a couple of different things, couple of different tools that we can use instead. But one of my favorite ones is to change the conversation to, is it worth it? Is it worth it is a simple switch, but it is a way that we can practice discernment. And by discernment, I mean, nobody wants to live a life where we say, I am never allowed to eat these foods again, right? It's unrealistic, it's unsustainable. We know that it ends up making those foods more attractive, and we're much more likely to overindulge in those foods as soon as we say, I'm not allowed to have this, okay? But if we change the question, the line of questioning to, is it really worth it? In other words, do I really want it, right? And actually, I take that back. Anytime we say, do I want it, your brain, which is hijacked by salt, sugar, fat, and processed foods, will say, yes, I want it. Right. So if you put something in front of you that you enjoy eating that is highly processed and you say, do I want it? Your brain is going to say, yes, I do. That's what the brain is designed to say. That's how our brains are developed. That's how processed food acts on the mechanisms of the brain. However, if instead you say something like, is it worth it? Right? You're asking a different question, which ideally involves permission to have it. So whenever I teach this to my students, permission to have it is a big piece of this. So as soon as we give ourselves permission to have something, that opens the door for the next round of information that's necessary for us to make a decision, which is it worth it, right? And is it worth it pertains to a lot of different aspects of the food. Does it actually really taste good? So for instance, let's say you're eating ice cream or you're eating a cake. We've all had that ice cream or that cake that was just sort of, it's good, it's sweet, it's got salt, sugar, fat, but it's not blowing me away, right? It's not, maybe the cake is a little bit dry, or maybe the ice cream is a little bit sweet. I know that sounds weird, but when you start to discern and you start to really taste things, give yourself permission to eat them, and then discern whether or not they are worth it to you, you'd be surprised at how much information is actually in there that we can't hear because we have this automatic reaction to a rule that we've set for ourselves. I can't have it. I'm not allowed to. I'm not supposed to. Those types of rules shut off the access to the information that's in there about whether or not it feels worth it to us or not. Okay. So is it worth it includes, how does it taste, right? Is it actually really that good? And then it also includes, is the amount that I enjoy this thing enough for me to recognize or acknowledge that it's perhaps not on my path or my plan or intention to how I want my body to look and feel. And the truth is, there are many things that are worth it for us to eat that we know that if we consume a lot of it or consume it regularly, that ultimately it's not on our path to how we would like to look and feel. But what's right in front of me is worth it to indulge in or to engage in or to have some of, even though I know that it's not taking me to where I want to go or how I want to feel. And so if we decide, yes, this is worth it, right? So I think we can all make the argument that if I eat a dozen donuts every day, I'm probably not going to be able to meet the goals that I have set for myself. That's okay. Neither here nor there. It's just a piece of data. If I eat a dozen donuts every day, I'm not going to be able to meet my goals. Is that worth it to me? No, it's not. But perhaps there's a really good donut from my favorite donut shop. And what's really worth it to me are the first 2 bites of that donut. And I say to me, yes, I realize that that's not exactly getting me closer to my goals if I'm doing that regularly, but this is really worth it to me. And therefore, this is the key, I'm going to eat what feels worth it to me, and I'm going to drop the guilt and shame that comes with it. If I make the intentional decision to say, this is worth it, I enjoy the people that I'm with, I enjoy the taste of the food, I enjoy the feeling of it, I enjoy the taste of it, I enjoy eating it, I enjoy eating an appropriate amount for me. I enjoy the fact that I'm not overeating it. If I can enjoy all of those things, then yeah, it's worth it to me. And you do it without guilt and shame attached to it. I'm going to talk more about that in the next couple of days, the guilt and shame that comes. When the guilt and shame is, I'll give you a hint, when the guilt and shame is attached to it, then we start to reevaluate whether or not it's worth it. A couple more things that I'll touch on for that tomorrow. So your invitation today and your invitation for the rest of the holiday season, and really anytime. This is not only pertaining to the holidays, but the holidays is when we have all kinds of, is it worth it questions, right? This is the time where there's cookies in the break room and all the special things we make at the holidays and, all of the celebrations, right? So there's a whole lot of treats around. And it's a good skill to learn to start asking, is this really worth it? Do I actually really enjoy this? If so, how much? If so, can I do it without guilt and shame? Because that leaves the worth it feeling after I've eaten it. If you decide that it's worth it, and then you eat it, and then you have guilt and shame attached to it, doesn't that erase the being worth it to begin with? So when we're asking the question, is it worth it? You want to be able to do it without the guilt and shame attached. Okay. So discernment is your goal for the foreseeable future, especially this week. We're going to be practicing discernment. Is it worth it? Not, can I have it? Is it worth it? All right, let me know how this is going for you. We will pick this back up with some more details and nuances to this concept the rest of the week.